going to like this. Ready? Here we go. There we go. We got a few things that we're changing up, starting. I learned a few new things along the way over here. I'm excited. But there is something that we did learn today that you need to know about it just is what it is. And sometimes it just is what it is. And maybe it fits in really well with the name of this program, Top of Mind. That racing thing's been top of mind. I think that's pretty apparent. But advancing through obstacles, right? Tomato talk, advancing through obstacles. So they're there. So one of the things that's changing right now as we speak, just found out a short while ago, which is why I wanted to come on a little bit earlier today, and I wanted to be playing this thing, is the fact that we will start the racing not April 2nd, not April 3rd, but April 9th. April 9th. So if you bought tickets, you got to speak to them, and you could go any of the other April days, whatever. It's all exchangeable, it's all exchangeable. You can take care of that with them. They have the details. That's it. So it's racetrack, not street. And go to the website, you get the information. We're posting everything all over the place, also so you could see what is going on there. So that's the big news from the racetrack standpoint is April 2nd and 3rd. This weekend is not the beginning of the races. It's next weekend. But what does that really mean? Maybe it'll be nice. I was at the car show last night over at Mount Carmel Church over in Patchogue. It was chilly, and I did get a chance to speak to my dad. Had a nice chat with him about car shows, racing, why we got involved with Islip and Freeport, and the rest of that stuff. And it was Freeport that I raced my car. He remembered that one exactly. He explained the whole thing out. I think the two of us experienced it differently, but it was there. But that's it. So no racing this weekend. It's going to be April 9th and 10th. A little bit of shift around, but then no big deal. It's at EPCAL. All the rest of that stuff is there. Going to be a whole lot of fun as we go through the whole thing, and that's great. And if you want to learn about and hear about the excitement of the thing, forget about the gibberish I got coming out over here. But you have got to, and I will put this up on as soon as LI News puts it up on SoundCloud, but Riverhead Town Supervisor was on this morning on Jay Oliver's program. Great. she was great. Jay started asking about Riverhead, what's going on in the racing, and then, man, she just went very enthusiastic about the racing that's out there, as she should be. I mean, look, you got the drag racing that's come back after like a 17-year plus last year's hiatus. Riverhead Raceway is just a fixture out there. And it's like the two remaining race areas on the island. I think it's a big thing. I truly do think it's a big thing. So it's a big part of the Riverhead community. But she also was very, very enthusiastic, as she was when I spoke to her a few days prior to this whole thing. Super enthusiastic about downtown Riverhead. I was asking about that because they got a $10 million grant from New York State on the redevelopment of it. And the one thing I mentioned to her is like, it would just be an absolute shame to lose that theater that's there. There's an historic theater, and a lot of those buildings down there are pretty darn old. But that theater, if you don't know about it, I think it's called the Levitt Theater. We could look into that. Maybe we will at another time. But that theater is there, and it's another one of these theaters that goes back in time. It's not just a movie theater. It's not a multiplex theater. It is historic in and of itself. Just like in Port Jefferson, you got Theater 3. Historic. And there's other places around Long Island. Look at these historic buildings. I just love that aspect of it. Love the fact, that we're preserving history where we can, and then growing beyond that. Which a lot of it is what she mentioned down there today, also when she was interviewed by Jay. There are certain areas of Riverhead that just should remain pristine. Other areas can be developed. Other areas are meant to be developed. I think this at Epcal Park, when the I think when the military, I think it was the Navy that owned it. I'm not really sure, but when the military sold it to the town of Riverhead for $1, all these years ago, I'm talking years ago, decades ago at this point in time, it was destined to be developed into something, not just to lay there and fall apart. So there's been talk about different groups and companies coming in and what they're going to do, with the area and stuff like that. So, hey, you know what? I think that side of it's good. I do also know that there are plenty of animals in and around that area, and it's hundreds of acres. I mean, it's massive. It's also a bike path that goes around the whole thing, or it's a running path if you decide that you prefer to run instead of bicycle. And a lot of that area should remain wide open, absolutely wide open. The question is, and it always is like, how do you find the balance between all of these things? How do you do that? And what's the input you get from everybody, and how does that work? And let me tell you, from personal experience, I can tell you it's a challenge. It definitely is a challenge. Even in the area that I'm in, and I'm in the Stony Brook area. I'm in the Stony Brook area. There was a bike path, that we wanted to build or take up on the idea of building it, and that took years. Years. It's a bike path. It was a bike path on one of those paper roads. In other words, a road was destined to be there in the original plans in and around the area, and this included the Stony Brook, Setauket area going out to Port Jefferson. So it was a paper road. It wasn't going through and taking over people's backyards or anything like that. And even that was a challenge. Had to make so many presentations to the community, hear the feedback from the community, understand what they were concerned about, understand what could be adapted, not adapted, what's a concern, what's a valid concern, and what's not a valid concern. Well, from that experience, and this is something I'd love to see happen here with this experience with the racetrack, is the fact that there was a lot of concerns about crime and things like that, and kids using the trail at night and things like that. So what was done, in order to, I'll use the word placate, in order to address, that's a better word, in order to address that. What was done was the decision was made, and I don't think we were ever considering it anyhow, because it costs money, would be to light the trail. So if there's lights on the trail, now I've said it could be used at any time, and that was it. So it's a dawn to dusk trail. So that takes care of that. The other side of it was going through people's backyards. No, because it was a paper trail. So it was not going through people's backyards. The other side of it, what elements, bad elements, criminal elements were there? And the reality is that on the Port Jefferson side, it was a hangout. I don't know. That's not really the proper term, but there was people camping in and around that area because it was undeveloped. It was very, it was undeveloped. There's a lot of weeds and trees and stuff like that. So then this idea would be to put the trail there. So what happened though is that because all those weeds and trees and all that stuff is cleaned out, and there was more people flowing through there, all of a sudden it was not the same place. So those people that were staying there, the homeless that were there, they were showing other alternative places where they could, where the housing was. And, I mean, that certainly is an issue, and not that this fixed that issue, but it did clean that area up, and that issue was no longer there, in that spot. So there was one woman in particular that really was vehemently opposed to the whole thing. Said, how could you do that? Da, 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 with the trail and stuff like that, spending the money there. I get that aspect of it, but, the criminal side of it, was not there. That backyard concern, was not there. So those preconceived notions Not. And there were studies that were done with other bike paths and things like that. So now we are with, with the drag racing, preconceived notions. There is an institution that put out a video, and I am looking to really get in touch with them. Local place, all the rest of that stuff. They really did a big video about drag racing, street racing, actually, illegal drag racing. And I got a feeling these folks that were against that track, saw that as being an issue over here, that element. And that's not the case, because the racers that are down there are a lot of street racers, And what I mean by that, these are people that, like, well, car enthusiasts that have got the fast cars in the garage that want to use it someplace and want to use it legally someplace. So they go to a track, go out here. So that's that. Then you got the sound was the other issue. Well, every car's got to have a muffler, and there's been some changes with the muffler regulations too. So got to look into that. Find somebody who could actually talk intelligently on that one. That's not me, but just from the noise aspect of the track, that was not there. It definitely was not. In fact, there was one group, and met them at Riverhead Town Hall, that was talking about that. And we tend to think it might have been a spectator that was the noisy one, not in one of their cars, not actually one of the cars racing, because we think it was after the racing stopped. We're a little unclear about that from the time frame on the whole thing. A little unclear about that. Traffic, preconceived notion, reality, totally different. This is not like a sporting event where it starts at 11 o'clock, it ends at 4 o'clock, and everybody gets there at 10:30 for the 11 o'clock start. There's tech inspections. So the racers, the folks that are showing up with the cars, are there starting from 8 o'clock in the morning on. So that's all spread out. So that, that's not there when it ends. Maybe a little bit more traffic when it ends, but still, it's a lot of cars and got to load everything up and the rest of that stuff. But the racing ends at 4 o'clock. So then maybe the spectators are the first ones to go. But then it takes time for all the rest of the other cars and stuff like that to pack up and leave. So traffic was really not an issue there too. Oh, and what about all those people that showed up? Oh, the ones that enjoyed the food truck, the ones that were wearing the T-shirts that said "Grandmas love racing." Yeah, not exactly a bad thing. And when you listen to the comments by the supervisor this morning, seemed like one of the issues was that there wasn't enough hotel space because a lot of people came in. Restaurants were full because a lot of people came in. A lot of people stayed, and they went down to the Riverhead area. They went down to these restaurants and all the rest of that stuff. So that's a good problem, is it not? Especially coming out of COVID, man alive. Nice. It's nice to see that kind of an issue. I'm sure those waiters, waitresses were probably thrilled to see packed restaurants again. Those folks who had a tough go with COVID and having to work outside and all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, challenge. So, you know what? This is a good thing. But that's what I mean. These preconceived notions, they got to be addressed. How do we do that? By inviting people down. And that's what it is. So here's one of the opportunities that's come up out of this whole thing. We went out racing this weekend. And Karen, my wife, is on over there. She knows, like, I definitely got a little frustrated with that. It's like, I sent out so many emails inviting everybody, oh, come on down this weekend, media contacts and all the rest of that stuff. Well, okay, so we're going to circle back to those folks and say, look, it's not this weekend. We have another week to prepare. We have another week for it to be a little bit warmer outside too. Hey, maybe it'll be in the 60s next weekend as opposed to the 50s this weekend. That'd be nice. So it gives us a little bit more time in that respect. That's good. But that also gives us a lot more time and a lot more of an ability and opportunity to get rid of those preconceived notions. Man, I went down there and I didn't know really what to expect. And I wasn't going into this thing with a negative attitude or anything like that. But I didn't know. Last year when I went down there, I did not know. I saw the videos, I saw the pictures. And the catalyst to get me down over there was when Pete Scalzo said, hey, I'm looking for a volunteer to help out with the announcing. I was like, yeah, count me in. And they did one of these, what did I just volunteer for? But I never expected to see so many families. And I mean families. I'm talking the little kids on up. I was in the pit area working on the cars or being with the cars, all wearing the same T-shirts. Sweet. And then in the stands, I mean, when I shared some of the photos I took in the stands, I shared the pictures that did not include the kids. Why? Because I just don't really like taking pictures of kids. And that's just whatever, on that side. But they were in the stands. It was a couple of them were more adults, maybe the back of kids' heads and stuff like that. So no faces, but they were there. Oh, absolutely. And it was at the food trucks too. The soul food truck that I keep talking about, when I went down there and enjoyed lunch with them, it was a whole family. I don't know how young the kid was, but it was a whole family. Kids were the whole family that was out there, and they were working with with the spices and the napkins and keeping things clean and doing everything that was there. It was great to see. It wasn't even just that. I can keep going. It was the cars. It was the cars. Jason, the Dobries, and others. They were there with those junior dragsters, 6-year-old kids, which are now 7-year-old kids, and on up, racing those junior dragsters. The whole family was there. Whole family was there. Big time family operation. This is bad. This is great. This is great. And if we can continue to get that message out about the vocational aspect and how this is a catalyst for that, hey, that's great. Even more younger generation folks there. And then I really wonder, here's the I wonder, and I want to show you these photos I took yesterday at the car show. And I tell you, it was chilly. I don't think it was more than 30 degrees. And then when that sun started going down, it was really, it was really a little bit chilly. But this whole aspect of the people showing up, preconceived notions, definitely not there. So I could really use your help, to make that work. And that's where it's going to change. So I mentioned family event, a lot of families there, a lot of families. Vocational aspect, maybe you get a lot of high school students, some college students. Suffolk Automotive is going to be there. It's college students, automotive program. Also going to reach out to another one of the Suffolk programs to see if we can get them down there. And I can tell you, it was never going to happen if I had 3 days to do it. Now I got, 10 days. Not exactly a long time. I spoke to a professional PR guy yesterday. I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm now the media contact PR person working with a Racetrack Not Street on this. He said, good. How much time do you have to work with this thing? Fantastic. 3 days. It's like, well, that's not really. That's like, hey, what can I tell you? 3 days. 3 days. Well, now it's 10 days. I mean, so I got a 300% increase. You got to love math. Got to love math. But here's the last thing, and then I want to show you the video of the PowerPoint presentation I made on this thing from last night. And we can talk through that, and I'll tell you about the conversation I had with my dad. But what happens if this track becomes permanent? I'll save the economic side of it, for later. I'll save the racing aspect of it for later. But let's just stay on what happens if this track becomes permanent and we're racing 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What do you think is going to be happening with the cars, the automobiles of tomorrow? I tend to think they're going to get a lot quieter. And you could barely hear a car run now that's got a combustion street car that's got a combustion engine. But cars evolve over time. You take a look at the cars from the early 1900s, over 100 years ago. Woo! They were loud, noisy, smelly. Smoke took 2 people to race a car. The mechanic that drove with the driver. On these the Vanderbilt Cup races. But what do you think's going to happen? We're shifting over to electric vehicles, my friend. And that's not a political statement. Nah, that is just reality. That is just flat out reality. You could look at racing in all different shapes, sorts, and classes. Those electric cars are coming. They're definitely coming. I could even see drone races, but that's a whole nother thing. But those electric cars are coming. Yeah, they were racing out there last year. The street cars were racing out there last year. Don Garlits. I watched this video yesterday. He is like the epitome of drag racing. Big time, top fuel drags is the whole thing. What is he doing? and he's 90 years old at this point in time. He's developing an electric dragster, full-size dragster, racing it down an eighth of a mile track. Fascinating. What do you think about that? No more noise, no more pollution, no more anything. Interesting? Yeah. Adrenaline rush? Yeah. I tend to think so. But what about our students that are now working on these cars? I think it changes everything. Wouldn't it be a shame if we don't foster that? If we don't support that effort of the automobile industry by having a track over here? I think that would be an awful shame. I really think that'd be an awful shame. And that seems to be one of my takeaways from this whole thing. The family aspect, economic aspect of it, and that vocational thing. And it's not just people becoming automobile combustion engine mechanics today. That's needed. But there's a reason why Tesla is supporting the Suffolk Automotive Program. They offer paid internships. I'm going to leave you with that thought. They offer paid internships. Wonder why. All right, here we go, my friends. Let's see if I did this thing correctly. We have got the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip Car Show from March 30th. It was actually March 29th. I got to change the date on that one. Oh, there's always an edit. Over at Mount Carmel Church in Patchogue. Okay, we just get started, and first things first, we kind of miss. All right, but here we go. So what do you have here? We have one of the cars that were down there, and they were there. They get as many as 14. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. They get as upwards of 1,000 cars. And 850 was one of the numbers they had used. That when I was asking about that, how many people come? Hundreds of cars is the standard answer. They've had 850, had 1,400 cars at one point in time. Big parking lot. Great stuff. Remember, there's a donation that goes to the church at every one of these things. Food donations. There was plenty of food donations last night, and there wasn't that many people. Or cash donations, too. Great stuff. So it's really good. It's really good. So you're helping, those that are in need. And there's a lot of folks, in need now. So that's a factor, and there always is. Be great to help them out in a number of different ways. And you're doing a good thing. And the camaraderie over there, is really big. All right. So some of these cars, this car is just like a beautiful car, right? Love the way that hood operates too. So I'll flip through some of these things. So I just want to tell you that also, it's interesting. And if you're a boater, the boating community, the car community over here, whether it's these car shows, whether it's the drag racing community. There was one gentleman I spoke to yesterday. He actually prefers to do the cruises where the cars cruise and they go out and they just go for a ride someplace. They have a destination. It reminds me so much about the how's that for a car, right? That might be Petty Blue, is it not? Oh, who knows? There's no number on that car. Richard Petty was not there, nor Kyle, the rest of the Petty crowd. Beautiful car. Got to tell you, that is a beautiful car. But the community aspect of that, they were out there, they're talking cars. The boaters, they were out there talking about the boats and teak and everything else that goes along with it. What's the difference? The topic of conversation. What's the commonality? That whole community. The community aspect of it, and that is not a small thing, is it? Not a small thing. All right, the next car. Look at this one. God, that is an old and beautiful car. Had a fun time taking that one. Had to get down a little bit lower to take that car. So close to the ground. That'd be pretty cool. Definitely a neat thing. Another oldie, station wagon car. When was the last time you saw a station wagon out there? Who knows? And I believe those plates were not New York plates. In fact, I know they're not New York plates. I don't think it came down for this thing, but beautiful car. And the amount of effort and the work they put into these cars, just really something. This guy, I don't know if we'll see him out at the track. Hopefully we will. I'm sure he's got a muffler tacked in there someplace. He actually has to. If he's driving down the street, and these cars were driven in, none of these cars would trail to this thing. So that is a street legal car. Not sure what happened to that front license plate there, but it's a street legal car. This guy's amazing. He is he does car shows, does this kind of thing, but he also does events. And he you can take the car there. You could hire him to come down there, um, as a showpiece, stuff like that. These attention grabbers and things like that. That's great. Spoke to him about a few other things we're doing, including some of these career days, because that's really a big factor in there, right? Getting the students' attention with something, and that is just an absolute beautiful car that's there, and this career that's involved, in this whole thing. So, that was really great of him. Uh, Love seeing him down there. He's down there at all of these things, and he parks somewhere around that same area all the time too. You know, and you notice you get the food truck back there. It was a barbecue food truck, and also the ice cream folks showed up, and there was people lined up to buy ice cream. You can notice over here, he was cozy in those overalls. But that was it. We just took a couple of quick photos on that one. So here it is. So I spoke to my dad. I gave my dad a call. He asked me like, "What's going on? How things going?" I gave him an update and a whole bunch of different things. So it's nice to talk to him. He lives out in California. Different world. Different worlds. We discussed a few things that were different worlds. On that one. One was car shows. It's car shows. I told him this one got upwards of 1,000 cars, 850 cars, 1,400 cars one time. Showing up at this. He goes, "Yeah, there's a car show by him too that they do." Get 50 cars that show up, and they have like a contest, best in show and some other designations in there and the rest of that stuff. This one is not. This one's all just about that community thing, just to get down there, just get together, social occasion. There's that. Some of the car shows are that. Some of them are judged. Been to a number of them over the past couple of years that have been judged. All good. Could see the car shows out in California, 52 weeks a year, right? It's always nice. He also mentioned that it was really warm over there. There was a big difference in temperature between the two. They have the car shows out there. They have the racetracks out there. Over here, a conversation I had here with one guy said he really likes to take that car and open it up. It's like, where can you do that legally? Where can you do that? What I found out was he can go out to Pocono Speedway, and you could. It's not that you're renting the track. I'm sure you can rent the track too, which has got to be some incredible number. But you could have access to the track. It's X amount of dollars, for the day, and you can bring your car out there and run your car. Now, Pocono, if you don't know Pocono is a super speedway. It is a large, large track. Tri-oval is what they call it. Reason is that there are 3 turns. So it's not a circular track, it's a triangular shaped track. And each one of the turns is a little bit different. Your approaches have to be a little different, etc. How fast he goes, I don't know. I can tell you the number he gave me, but I don't know how fast he goes. Is it NASCAR, car speed? Don't really know. But he gets a chance to open the car over there. You know something? That's great. The drag strip over here, the 8th mile, different thing. Definitely a different thing. It's more about the quickness of the car rather than the overall speed of the car. And of course, the quickness of your reaction time. So it's a little bit different, in that respect. Father had told me too, out there too, they got another track that actually he wants to go to. You gotta, I don't know, you gotta love it. I think it's the nuttiest thing in the world. But he expects to get into a race car too, as passenger, and be driven around the track at some who knows how fast speed, and maybe even for him to get behind the wheel and do it. I don't know. Maybe the guy's an adrenaline junkie. Who knows? Also taking flying lessons. He's deep in his 80s. Let's not kid ourselves. I don't think he's going to be flying anybody around. I don't think he's getting a pilot's license, but he's taking lessons, having a good time getting up in the air, having a good time driving the car. And then, you know what? I think that's what a lot of this stuff is good for so many of us. I raced a go-kart at 45 miles an hour. Big speed? No. Relatively big speed? Yeah. It was exciting. It was exciting. It would be exciting to do that drag strip. Fun stuff. It's good family fun and exciting to do something a little bit different. I so want to see this stuff happen. Definitely want to see this thing work. But I had asked him too, just over. I had asked him too, it's like, what was it, that catalyst, as I mentioned yesterday, for him? And you know what he mentioned? It was just good fun. That was it. He just saw it as something the whole family could go to, not sitting inside of a building doing something, but outside, getting some fresh air, watching the cars. It was fun. There was always something to see, take away. There was no real racing history in his backyard. I know he liked cars, the rest of that stuff, but it wasn't some deeply embedded thing. He just saw it as something good. He just saw it as that family outing. That's his drag strip out there, the family outing. You got the mufflers on the car. It's not going to be that loud, but hey, still, you want to bring mufflers, earplugs, stuff like that. Hey, by all means, do it. Don't want to stand that close? I don't have to stand that close. You can sit in the top of the spectator stand. Good. A little bit further away, a little bit better view. Great place to take photos from too, Carrie. So you got that aspect of it. You got a whole bunch of different things. But the one thing is important here for you to take away today, besides those closing comments, is that April 9th will be the beginning of this whole thing. April 9th. And we're definitely going to get up the recording from the town supervisor from this morning's show on LA News. And guys, thank you over there, Jay Oliver and team, for your assist with that one. Pete Scalza is scheduled to be on this Friday morning at 8:30. I think we'll still do that at 8:30 this Friday and talk about the races. This way, it's not next Friday, so that's fine. All good. We got a few things definitely wanted to clarify that from this morning, and that was the noise factor. Because Jay was talking about Englishtown, New Jersey, and the dragsters and the funny cars and the noise. Different thing. It's a different thing. That's why this is a family thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why this can be so popular. All right. So there we go. You got it. The whole thing. Really great. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us here today. And I'm going to go. I know we're on a little bit early. I'm going to get this thing set up to go play again at 1 o'clock this week at the 1 o'clock crowd. It's good. So, hey, what the heck? All good. All right. Remember now, here's what you got to do. Drive safely. That's a new edition. Speak well. Speak often. And live inspired. Tomato talk.